So we're about to discuss Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 5. Lots to talk about.
According to HBO, it's episode, 73?
Yeah.
72?
Yeah. See you in a sec.
73. 72. 72. 73 is next week. 72. Hi.
All right, yeah. So here we are, Episode 5. Didn't do a review for Episode 4. We were busy, or I was busy. Couldn't make. I actually didn't get to watch the episode till very late. But we're here for Episode 5, and boy, is there plenty to talk about. I'm going to jump into the two major points, and then we'll break down other things. There's a lot to talk about in this episode.
Davos.
Davos was cool. Probably the least. Davos. There was that cool shot of Davos, Jon, and Grey Worm.
Yeah, that was
where they were walking through the streets. So, the two major points we're going to talk about starting off are the points that I think the most controversy and complaints will come from, and I definitely understand one of them. The other one, I can defend it a little bit. So I'm going to go with the one I cannot defend, and that's the Jaime Cersei storyline. Oh yeah, full spoilers.
Before he says that, throw out a little curveball, perhaps.
I don't think this is the case.
I don't either.
But yeah,
maybe. To me, it would lead a little bit more up to the prophecies, because if you talk about the prophecies, Cersei, was told that she was going to get killed by.
I'll keep going.
Killed by
I would have
one
my
of her.
Starbucks.
In case you want to. Starbucks. In case you want to give us $1 for our 21 views. I think that you go back to the prophecy, them saying that she's going to get killed by one of her younger brothers.
Yeah.
So the only way that that's true is if you basically say that Jaime led her through the vault and she died. So my thing is what if she lives, both her and Jaime live, Tyrion comes to find them, because Tyrion's like, I told him to get out, I told him how to get out, I told him this way, if they didn't get crushed. So Tyrion comes to find them, he finds them down there in the rubble, kind of beat up a little bit, and then where it goes from there, I don't know. Maybe Cersei kills Tyrion, and then Jaime loses his shit and kills her, because then you could still play it out that way. But to me, it's an unnecessary type thing, because there's so much to cover in the last episode.
Sure.
I don't know that they would do that, but to me that would kind of wrap up all of their stories, as opposed to what they did now, where Tyrion's just kind of floating around now.
The fact that we got to the end and we're having to come up where Spencer's trying to think of ways to fix the Jaime story, because at the end of the day, if this is it, that was horrible, because you completely void his whole story arc. You give Cersei, in my opinion, an actual decent death, which she does not deserve. You have her embracing, the person she loves most, them dying in each other's arms. That's not deserved for her at all. If any, I was about to say she deserves, the worst death. No, that belongs to another character now, which we'll talk about in a second. But Jaime and Cersei's storyline to wrap up like that, that depending on how next week plays out, that'll probably be my biggest complaint of the series as a whole.
Well, yeah, because like you said, she was you look at evil. Mm-hmm. Like the Night King was a supernatural creature that, was trying to basically turn everybody to them. Like it wasn't, they were trying to retake the kingdom, make it the Long Winter or whatever. Mm-hmm. You got Cersei, who to me was the most, kind of like Dolores Umbridge in Harry Potter, was the genuinely evil character. Yeah. Like the shit she did was evil. There was no rhyme or reason behind half the shit she did. There was no reason, like the Sept, when she blew up the Sept. She was just like, these people might usurp me. Oh, well, there's one way for them not to do that. Kill all of them. Tonight's episode, she brings everybody into the keep knowing that there's a high possibility that they're all going to die. And she lets them all die to try and deter Dany. So she, to me, was truly the evil character.
Yeah.
But then you let her go in the arms of her lover, like I didn't.
It felt like what you would give characters you care about. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It was this moment where they looked at each other, they realized they loved each other, they realized they were going to die, but it was okay because they embraced. And it's like
John and Ygritte, or Ygritte, whatever.
yeah.
Like
Yeah,
that
somewhere.
made sense. Like for her to go out that way, they loved each other. That made sense. But nobody loves Cersei. That's except Jaime. And for him to fall back into that after his giant heroic, like comeback story arc, to go out that way,
Yeah,
I didn't. No.
I hate that. And then
So George, if that's not how the book's written, please unfuck that.
I
for the
would
books.
bet money that there's no way that's how it happens in the books. I'm almost positive it doesn't.
No, it's Jaime
There's
or
no
Tyrion take her out.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I don't know.
There's no way. I would be shocked if that happened in the books. So the other thing, I don't mind that it happened. I'm a little more. My issues are more at how it happened, and that is Daenerys turning into the most evil, biggest villain of the series. I don't mind that she became the villain at all, but I think yet again the complaints we've had throughout this season, it's too quick. 6 episodes. This should have been 8 to 10 episodes. We should have fleshed this out a little more. We should have built this a little more. You have her turn. Yes, she's had hints of doing bad things, but my God, she is more evil now than the Night King, than Cersei, than the Freys, than the Boltons.
I think if you would have taken, even say you did 6 episodes, hour and a half apiece, take out some of those unnecessary conversations before the big battle with the Night King. Take out some of those things and instead put in a conversation with Dany and Tyrion about how she's nervous about Jon usurping her, because that's where her real fear is.
Yeah,
is that
true.
Jon? It's not her fear. I think what turned her wasn't Missandei. Like that was a catalyst, but I think her fear is that Jon's going to take her over. So, and she said that like 3 or 4 times, that she has to
Varys
rule
stuff.
through fear.
Yeah.
So when Varys was like, well, and her knowing the influence that he had on people, that I think was the catalyst. Not necessarily Missandei, getting her head chopped off. The fact that she felt like Jon was a better ruler than her, and that Jon was able to command more people through love, as opposed to hers being through fear. And that to me, when they've talked about it since, season 1, since I talked about in the first book, that 2 sides of the coin for the Targaryens. Once you find out that Jon is the other side of that coin, her turning to this side where she's killing everybody is not unexpected.
Yeah.
But I think that they should have spent, an extra half hour, even spread out through a couple episodes, her turning to that instead of her just looking super sad at the beginning of this episode.
I could have understood if she had that moment where she broke and she says no. She rejected the surrender. She flew up. She torched the keep. She torched some soldiers. I wouldn't have minded that, but that's not what happened. She made the decision then, which to kill pretty much everyone in the city, all men, women, children, soldiers, everyone. She systematically went through the city to burn all of it. She achieved what the Mad King couldn't. Mm-hmm. She went to the extreme, and that would have taken calculation, thinking, and it being okay with it. And to that level of villainy, to me, wasn't earned yet, or I don't know. It came out of nowhere. Now, the episode was well done. It was a well done episode, and it just felt like it was sped up. The storyline.
Oh, you're talking about this being a calculated attempt on her. It's not just like she burned some people and then just kept burning and was just like fuck everybody. But for her to get to that point of not caring, there's no lead up to that.
Yeah.
And for her to be this breaker of chains, all these things, there's no lead up to her flipping that coin. But she did say that in that, I don't remember if it was the beginning of this episode or last episode, when she was talking about, being the breaker of chains, all this stuff. Mm-hmm. It was the beginning of this one, where she has to rule through fear.
Varys, yeah.
and not through love. So in Essos, she ruled through love because everybody loved her. She freed all these people. Once she came over to Westeros, it wasn't like that anymore. She had to rule through fear.
Well, Larry is still not here. Maybe he'll pop in next week. I don't know. I talked to him. He might, since it's the finale. He texted me before we started recording, and he was right. He's like, he enjoyed the episode. He definitely had issues similar to what we were discussing here, but his biggest thing was, Danny, I hope you enjoy ruling your heap of ash, because by the end of the episode, you do sit back and think, what is there to rule? You've just, you know what I mean?
To me, that goes back to her freeing all these people from slavers. The only way to rebuild the Red Keep would be through slaves. To be able to rebuild all that stuff, she would have to enslave all the people who are still alive and redo it. So there is no. She's a breaker of chains, but she's also the chain giver. So like breaker of chains, the chain giver. Like,
I could see this being the biggest, besides the Jaime thing. A lot of people being upset about this. I know there's a lot of people who
named their kids Khaleesi.
It was trending as a major name. There's a lot of people who looked at this character as a strong female character, that we get to see her go through all these horrible trials and lead, build up to being a leader. And now the show has turned her into the biggest villain of them all, and sort of quickly. Even as recent as last week, I don't think people were starting to question her
we
character.
said that she was going to be bad, but we didn't expect
No one expected this, and so I could see there being backlash from this. I could see huge fans of the character being very upset by this. I don't know. For me personally, I
think there's going to be a lot of internet backlash, but whether or not that equates to people not watching the finale, it's not going to.
People are going to watch the finale.
Yeah, I don't think that matters.
But
people are going to piss and moan, but
yeah,
it's not going to matter.
So let's see here. I'm just going to go through some of the highlights, things I specifically like. I like the Varys storyline. Yet again, it would have been cool if we had a couple more episodes to build it, but I like the fact that he knew he was going to die. I like the little hint of showing how he grooms his spies at a young age. It was brief, it was quick, it was like 5 or 10 minutes, but...
Well, and I like how they showed that Varys isn't a bad person. There are some times during the earlier seasons where you're thinking maybe he's the one that's behind a lot of this shit. That him and Littlefinger are basically battling as to who can usurp the other one, but you find out that Varys really is worried about the people of Westeros.
Yes,
and he was just like, I'm willing to die for this, but hopefully you're right, Tyrion. And Tyrion realized he wasn't.
Tyrion is wrong.
So,
I think my favorite moment in the whole episode is the Hound Arya moment before the Hound goes off. I love the fact that he looks at her and it's like, don't be me, don't let the drive for revenge define you as all that you are. I like that moment. I thought it was a sweet little moment, a final scene between the two.
Well, we've talked about this. If you watch any of our old videos, Arya has always been my favorite character in the book. In the show, there's a season where they kind of dropped the ball on her.
She's even better
bit,
in the books.
Yes,
the show is fumbled.
But
where the books, I don't think have.
The last couple seasons, they've picked back up with Arya. They've done a good job, kind of re-implementing her. But I think that, and we talked about this too, that there's a lot of stuff that, why is her character still alive at this point? I don't think that she hopped on that horse and roared off into the sunset. Like this last episode, I think that she's still alive for a reason. And if you look at what was happening between her and Clegane at the same time, when they were kind of showing them both get knocked down, get back up, knocked down, get back up, but then they show the Hound dying, but she hopped up and kept going. So why would they keep her around? My theory is that she's going to be the one to kill Dany, but I don't know. Why else would you keep her around at this point? I mean,
it seems like there's a purpose for her. She was in this episode a lot more than I would have thought, and I like getting her view of the streets and the horrors of what the people were going through. like you said, the white horse scene. There was a lot of, I think, symbolism things. Maybe we'll understand more in the next episode.
White horse, you look at the hero.
Yeah.
Instead of,
I thought she was great in this episode. One of the highlights.
Well, and to me, that could be part of the symbolism too. You look at, symbolizing her being the hero of Westeros, riding off on the right horse.
The Hounded
Fingers
Mountain.
crossed.
Hounded Mountain.
Clegane
Larry's been calling this forever. You were right. I liked the battle because I mentioned it was like He-Man. I mean, it was straight up old school fantasy, over the top of a castle. It's crumbling around them. Their armor's coming off, bloody gore.
Just like a normal fantasy where thumbs are getting pushed through eyeballs and
that was cool.
The zombies getting stabbed 42 times and still living.
Pushed over the top into a pit of dragon fire. I mean, it was the most metal, one of the most metal things to happen in the episode.
And I think that Clegane probably lived.
Yeah.
As he fell on top of the mountain, who was soft and mushy because he was a zombie for a long time. So.
Yeah, he'll be back. Yeah, it was a good end.
Well, and then Qyburn, who we were talking about before,
I didn't like that. But.
We're like, well, maybe he has an important significance, and then the mountain just threw him out of the way, smashed his head.
So let's go into that. Between Qyburn and Euron Greyjoy, their endings were just anticlimactic.
To me, the Euron one was funny. Qyburn wasn't.
Qyburn was just stupid, and I don't know. It's fine.
Well, I thought the Euron one was pointless.
Completely pointless. And if ever there was a failure of the series, that character is next to the Dorne stuff. They messed him up.
They just didn't focus on it.
They
My
didn't
thing
care.
is that if they weren't going to focus on it, why include it?
How did he survive? I mean, when he swam, he just so happens to land in the exact spot that Jaime. I mean, there's no way the books. That's not happening in the books. I'm telling you, none of that happens in the books.
Well, my thing is that why bring him in if that was your point?
I mean, it was a nice little fight for a few seconds, but I don't know, it was.
Well, I'm the one that killed Jaime, but he's dead, dying on this.
A wall killed Jaime,
Yes.
or a ceiling that collapsed on him killed Jaime, whatever.
No, I'm telling you, he ain't
Love
dead.
killed Jaime.
He ain't dead. Jaime's gonna end up being the hand. He's gonna be John's hand. That'd be some shit.
What else? We burned through everything. As far as notes, let's see my raw notes. So I noticed the costumes were really cool because we could actually see everything. There was light, and the battle that played out. You got to see a lot of cool costumes. Now, how did you feel about Grey Worm? I wasn't mad about it. It made sense.
His made more sense to me than Dany's.
Yeah.
Like,
and we never saw him killing innocent people. I don't believe. I think we
saw him killing soldiers.
We saw him killing soldiers.
But him flipping that switch to me made sense.
I agree.
Watching. He has no genitalia. Yeah, he loves Missandei. Like, it's one of those things where it's a true love. It wasn't a lust. It was a love. And to watch his love get her head chopped off and kicked over the wall, that was a little heart-wrenching for him. So to watch him, go through that metamorphosis and just flip that switch and start killing people, that to me was understandable. Dany suddenly making this calculated move to mow everybody down didn't make as much sense. I saw it coming as far as her, losing her shit, but I didn't see that coming.
So also another light complaint. It's gonna sound like a lot of complaining. It was a decent episode, but there's plenty to complain about if you start breaking it down. How is it that Euron's fleet, they're the greatest when it comes to ballistas? They're so good at it, at firing ballistas and hitting their target. In this episode, nobody could fire anything. Now, they did show that Dany was using more tactics with her elevation, trying to throw them off. So I'll give them
because
that.
their gigantic ballistas
Yeah.
actually took time to move and aim them and spin them. So her coming straight down at them where they had to, adjust, and then they had to, her coming from underneath and do.
So they did try it intentionally.
So I think that, I don't disagree with that. But what I disagree with is that they have like 97 ballistas and none of them made any contact. Like,
she all of a sudden.
them missing
Yeah.
and her taking out everything in a matter of.
I thought it was ridiculous that they hit so well last week.
That's what I'm saying.
Was it last week? Yeah.
Yeah, they shot like two, and they're like
2 weeks ago. I thought that was ridiculous that they were that good of shots, but then this week all of a sudden they're horrible shots.
But that goes back to me being the calculated part. Like when we're talking about, it didn't seem like she had a plan, didn't seem like she was being very calculated, to suddenly being super scared of John and then burning the whole city down. That had to be, she was thinking about that. Like she had to put this into play in her head, but they showed none of that leading up to it.
Yeah.
My thing is
Yeah.
that, like, who would she not have told somebody? Would she not have told Grey Worm, hey, move your people at this point because I'm going to come from this angle and do this? Because of all the people, she clearly isn't trusting Tyrion. So I get not telling Tyrion, but her having a conversation with Jon, or her having a conversation with Grey Worm, which would have made sense, or Davos, or any of these other people.
I bring up, I don't know if I think I brought it up before, without spoiling it because it's such a good show, The Wire. There were a lot of twists and turns in that show. The HBO show, a lot of twists and turns, people killing each other, backstabbing, things going in directions you didn't necessarily always see coming. But every time something would happen that would shock you, you would say, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I never questioned anything that happened in the show, with a few details in the last season. I'll take that back. There's a few things with the major plot. Would had a few questions, but the 99% of that show, everything made sense to the story. I think that's the issue with what's happening in Game of Thrones right now. Is things are happening and you're just like, it doesn't really make sense.
Well, we talked about this. If you watch our first couple reviews of this season,
It's the time. I think it's the condensed.
our worry
season.
was, is there going to be unanswered questions? So now, with them rushing, there's unanswered questions. Like, unless this last episode literally is no fighting except for maybe somebody getting stabbed in the back and dying and somebody there should be no more battles. This should just be tying up
This
all the
is
storylines.
politics.
Yeah.
This is pure politics. This last episode. And I've been wondering, are we going to have a scenario where you wrap up the story, you're like, all right, it's done, and then maybe we jump a decade to see how the kingdom is going? Or
That'd be good.
I'm just curious if they were going to do something like that. I don't know.
Like an epilogue type thing.
I mean,
To me,
it's
that would
fantasy.
be. To me, it'd be a good way for any spin-off or any, because there's.
Get an idea.
They're talking about one that's going to be like way back in the day, but
I will say, if you've noticed,
maybe show Bran thinking about something back in the day and let that tie into the spin-off.
or he glimpses the future or
Yeah.
something. You have all the major houses have been purged, so that's one thing you can say, and King's Landing too. So everyone is. It is a fresh start. However it pans out next week, all the houses have been replaced as far as their leadership, everything. All the people in charge now were not the same people that were in charge before the series. You know what I'm saying? I don't think there's a single ruler that's the same. So that's, So, any final thoughts? There's only one episode left. If Larry, I don't know, we'll see if Larry shows up or not. I think obviously we'll have our review next week, but there may be another video later, because I know since Spencer was talking about rewatching the show, I don't know, we may start breaking down our thoughts on the show or how we feel about certain things, especially if next week goes bad and we hate it and we have a lot to say about it. I don't know.
Well, if George ever put out the damn books, like, I've
been curious if will he tweet about saying that does not happen in the book.
Oh, most definitely.
I think he'll wait.
I think he's probably waiting for the show to
He's
wrap
waiting
up
for it to wrap up
to put out the next book.
so he doesn't hurt ratings or anything.
Mm.
But because I think he still gets a check. But I think once all's said and done, I think he'll come out and say, yeah, that doesn't happen. The Jamie thing, no, that doesn't happen.
We put it a little different in books. Well, that would help still drive up book sales too, though, because people want to know how it happens in the book. So.
Absolutely. So, all right, any last?
Arya kills everybody, runs away with Gendry, and runs Storm's End.
That'd be cool to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would. And Jaime and Cersei are still alive.
What if Arya is not in next week's episode at all? What if her riding away on the horse was the bow on her storyline wrapped up?
Oh, I dropped my subscription to HBO. And I like Barry. There's all kinds of shows on.
I gotta finish Barry.
Watching
the
Deadwood
finale's next
currently.
week. Yeah, Barry's finale's next week.
Watching Deadwood currently, waiting for the.
Well, you can drop. Well, Watchmen doesn't come out till.
I know, that's what I'm
fall,
saying. There's
so
so
you can
many.
Drop it and then get it back.
I don't know.
Well, you're
HBO.
watching Deadwood.
I'm watching all kinds of shit. I love HBO.
Barry is good. We should have did Barry reviews. Barry's amazing.
Yeah, if you haven't watched Barry, watch Barry.
Watch Barry.
Do it a favor, because I want that show to keep going. That show is amazing.
I definitely want that show to keep going. All right, we'll see you next week. Let us know how you feel about this episode if you're watching this video in the comments. What is good and what is bad? I mean, is it? Do you think the stuff with Jaime or Daenerys turning as evil as she has, does that ruin the series for you? I am curious. For me, no.
Nope.
But I could see some people disagreeing with that heavily.
Like I said, Jaime's story arc is what's running this.
That's stupid. But all right. See you next week.